Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. My grandmother used to perform prayers at my parents' house. She's since stopped. She often told me stories from a young age, which led me to believe in spirits until I was in elementary and junior high school. However, lacking any psychic powers myself, I began to lose my belief by the time I entered high school. I started to doubt my grandmother, wondering, why does she lie about spirits? Is she a con artist? This skepticism led me to distance myself from her mentally. This estrangement persisted until about my second year of college. So this is a story from my second year of college. One day my mother and sister came to visit and stayed at my boarding house. We had dinner together, went to a super public bath, and on the way back, rented some DVDs from Sutaya. My sister had rented a ghost-related movie, liked true cursed videos, so we decided to watch that before going to bed. We turned off the lights and watched the scary DVD. She picked the DVD at random, but the content was genuinely scary. Despite not believing in ghosts, horror movies and supernatural programs could still scare me. My sister and I watched the ghost videos with shivers while my mother was already snoring 5 minutes after we turned off the lights. After the DVD, we turned on the lights, laid out the futon, and went to bed. My mother was sleeping on my futon in the loft, and my sister and I were sharing a futon covered with towel blankets. After we turned off the lights, I couldn't fall asleep. Initially, I was just scared from the DVD. But gradually, something felt wrong. My whole body started shaking. I was breaking out in a cold sweat, and my body temperature dropped rapidly. I also had a high-pitched ringing in my ears. These symptoms might sound like the early stages of a cold, but I didn't have a headache, sore throat, or fever, and I was fully conscious. I just couldn't stop shaking, sweating, and hearing the ringing. It was so terrifying that I was surprised by the intensity of my fear. My sister was right next to me, and my mother was asleep in the loft. But I felt as scared as if I were alone in an abandoned hospital at midnight. You might think I could have just turned on the lights, but at the time, the idea of a brightly lit room was equally scary. I felt like my room belonged to someone else entirely. Thinking, I'm definitely going to see a ghost tonight, I crawled into the towel blanket and clung to my sister. During the night, I heard footsteps walking around the futon for about 30 minutes, but I still don't know if I imagined them or not. By morning, my fear had faded away like a bad dream. I considered telling my sister and mother, but I thought they would make fun of me, so I just kept quiet. In the end, I didn't see any ghosts and decided I must have just been extremely scared. However, the day after they left, I got a call from my parents' house. My sister's voice was very excited. The night we stayed at your place, Grandma had a strange feeling in her heart. So she did a spiritual reading of your room. And it was amazing. She said that a floating female spirit was in your room. It was a woman who had taken her own life. What's that? Is Grandma still there? No, she's already gone. But Grandma told me to tell you she did a spiritual reading, and the woman is probably still there. Grandma said she'll mail you a talisman, so stick it to the north wall. I went to stay at my friend's house right after the phone call. The talisman arrived later by UPAC, and I stuck it on the north wall as instructed. The same phenomenon never happened in the room after that, which is enough to make me believe in my grandmother again. He is a member of my club, and his hobby is traveling around the world, which he often calls a journey of self-discovery. Recently, he visited a remote area in China, known for its herbal medicines. There, he saw various unusual items for sale, including pig's feet, monkey fingers, brains, and some animal testicles. When he returned, he shared his experience with a few of us and brought back various souvenirs. Most were typical, like Chinese herbal medicines and keychains from the airport. However, there was one particular item called a finger doll. The doll was flesh-covered, about the length of a soda can and as thick as a chikawa, which is similar to a hollowed-out Japanese crab stick, but just a little bit thicker. According to him, if you break one of the doll's fingers, you would be cursed. Naturally, everyone was intrigued and wanted to test it. Despite multiple attempts to break the doll's fingers, which were small, shiny, and slippery, none of us could manage it. The excitement dwindled, and we eventually moved on and parted ways for the day. The next day, we heard shocking news. The person who had taken the doll died in an accident on the way home. He had been quite drunk, so it was uncertain whether the doll had any involvement in the accident. Nonetheless, what we found eerie was that the doll's body was found bent and misshapen, with a monkey's finger emerging from inside. It was a long time ago, so I don't remember the details, but I'll write it down as I remember it. Near my house, there was an old memorial monument that kids called Yamaki's grave. It was a natural stone, about 1 meter high, set on a stone base. It seemed quite old, and the surface was covered with moss, so I couldn't read what was written on it. It was a little way into the dark bushes, and there were offerings placed there from time to time. It had an awe-inspiring presence, even as a child. I don't remember the contents, but I think there were also some ghost stories attached to it. This happened when I was in the 5th grade of elementary school. My friends and I made a secret base in the bushes where the memorial monument was, and we killed time by bringing in manga and snacks. One day, when we gathered at our secret base again, one of our friends, Tomo, said, "There's a bottle buried under Yamaki's grave, and there's a live catfish in it." Apparently, it was a story about an uncle who had come home for a relative's wedding, but there was zero credibility among our friends that a live catfish could be in a bottle underground. So, Tawa asked me, Katsuaki, and Benny to dig under the foundation of the grave on Sunday. By the way, Katsuaki, Benny, and I have no psychic powers. We're not particularly strong people. We were curious and just followed him, hoping for gold coins or something. We gathered in the morning at Katsuaki's house near Yamaki's grave to do some homework, then had lunch and moved to the secret base. We were equipped with a flashlight, 2 shovels that someone had brought, and a jit, a prize from a festival ring toss that Katsuaki had brought for some reason, and set off for the grave without any particular thought. We arrived at the grave around 2 o'clock. Clouds appeared, making it look like it was going to rain a little, and I remember it being muggy. For the time being, Kumo aimed for the catfish, and the other 3 of us started digging in front of the foundation, aiming for gold coins. The soil was quite hard, mixed with gravel, and we could only dig about 10 centimeters deep after 10 minutes of effort. We took turns digging for about an hour and reached about 50 centimeters deep. Nothing came out. We were children and getting bored. But then, it started raining heavily, so we took refuge under a nearby tree. We saw the muddy water filling up the hole we had been digging, making it twice as troublesome. We decided to dig again next time. We filled the hole with grass or something to prevent it from filling up. As we were all raking up the grass and dead leaves around there, we heard a gurgling sound coming from the hole. A catfish? That's what I thought. Maybe everyone else thought the same. We all gathered around the hole to look in, but the muddy water made it hard to see, and we couldn't put our hands in because we were afraid the catfish would bite. Sometimes bubbles would rise, and the water's surface would move. Tomo picked up a tree branch and tried to insert it into the hole. He moved it around for a while, but after hearing a grr sound, like something was getting stuck, the branch couldn't be removed. I thought it might be a giant catfish, so no one bothered with the hole anymore. After being stunned for a while, Katsuaki walked up to the hole with the jit in his hand. When he tried to stick it in, he screamed and ran away. Out of curiosity, we got closer. Tomo, who was the first to look into the hole, also screamed and ran away. After that, I ran away in a chain reaction to the secret base. When I talked to Katsuaki and Tomo at the secret base, they said they saw a bloodless human mouth biting into the end of the branch in the muddy water. Since our base was in the same bush, we decided to evacuate to Katsuaki's house before heading home. Tomo looked embarrassed when we left, and Katsuaki looked a little proud. To my surprise, Tomo asked his brother to help him fill in the hole later. Apparently, the branch had fallen over with the tip bitten off, but he was scared, so he quickly buried it and stamped it down. Maybe he felt responsible after all. After that, first Tomo, then Tomo's brother, hit their little toes hard, and it was said to be the Yamaki curse. Katsuaki was also the first in his class to grow hair, so it was said to be the Yamaki curse. If you've read this, and you have hit your little toe hard or grown hair, it could be a curse. The year I started elementary school, the house we lived in was upgraded from a single-story house to a newly built two-story one. At the time, I hated going up to the second floor at night. At night, I would always see a shadow-like thing on the landing of the stairs. I don't know if it was a person or an animal or something, but whatever it was always looking at me with a grin. Of course, I told my parents about it, but my mom and dad didn't take me seriously. They just thought I was scared of the dark. A little while later, a cat figurine was placed in the place where I'd always see the grin. Where on earth did they buy this cat figurine? It was a wooden ornament that looked like it had been brought from afar, and it wasn't the cute, big-eyed one most people imagine. Its eyes were wide open, and its mouth was smiling, giving it a very creepy expression. Naturally, I was scared and angrily pleaded with my parents to remove it. But my parents got angry in return, saying it was a souvenir that Grandma bought for us from. I don't recall the country anymore. I think it was somewhere in Southeast Asia. So why would you say something like that? After that, I was frightened of the ornament for a while. But as I got older, I stopped thinking about it so much. And before I knew it, the ornament had been put away somewhere. Now I'm an adult and have a family. I only go back to my parents' house about twice a year. And when I went back this year for New Year's, I was drinking with my father and talking about those days. He told me that he would show me the face of his grandchild while he was still alive, and not to worry. My father, with a slightly red face, said I should have shown him. At least I went to the Buddhist altar and came back with a book-like bolt of cloth. It was then that I found out for the first time that my family was of the Zhou-Xiansu sect. Instead of using memorial tablets to hold memorial services for the deceased, they wrote their names in a book instead. The book, which has the dates of the 1st to the 31st written on each page, had the names of our ancestors written here and there. Naturally, there were many names I had never heard of. But this is where the main point begins. In fact, both my father and grandfather were second sons and had older brothers. But both of them lost their brothers when they were young. My paternal grandmother heard this story a long time ago. And out of curiosity, she looked into the matter. It turned out that at least from the end of the Edo period into my father's generation, all of the eldest sons and daughters in the family had died for some reason before they turned 15. My grandmother was pretty creeped out by this, and apparently went to consult a friend at a temple. But they were originally a poor farming family, so it would be difficult to find out where any grudges had been left by going back a little. All we found out was that the area around the plateau on which the house stands was not often inhabited or cultivated in the past. And in the end, we never found out why this kept happening. Our father said that in poor times, such misfortunes could occur one after the other. I also learned at the time that the ornament my grandmother had bought a long time ago was actually a kind of talisman. But to be honest, my first child was born in May of this year. I believe that in this day and age, with plenty of food, clothing, and shelter, there can't be such a curse. And yet, I still remember the shadow that I saw when I was young. I truly want to believe that the unpleasant coincidence ended with me. I know this isn't that scary, but it's a true story. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.